Thanks for joining today. We will be going over CRM today. And a whole bunch of good, cool information that you'll be able to use to help you with your daily lives on site. So first we'll go into CRM. I'm going to go into our test database of CRM. And to do that, you just click the little down button here and come right into test. Right, so for me, I have access to multiple properties, so I will need to select my property first, so that's what I'll do. All right, and my CRM is set up to bring me straight to this units dashboard section here. Your CRM may be set up to bring you to a different view depending on how you set it up. So first we'll go over the dashboard area. I'll try to go through this a little fairly quickly because it's kind of just a basic overview. So your unit section on the dashboard, under the dashboard section here, display all the available units, which mimics exactly what's in Yardi under the unit statistics area where you pull your availability. So I'll try to show you the mimicking sections so that it kind of clicks a little bit easier. And I apologize if this is information you already know. So if I click here, units, my available units here, it will match exactly the available units here. And the reason why Yardi has done that is because this software, you're able to use this standalone. So maybe for like a leasing agent and maybe even for an ACM. And sometimes for ACM, you're able to use CRM as a standalone product versus flipping back and forth, which may cause errors at time in the system. They do communicate to each other in real time, but as you know, it's a program, so sometimes there may be some delays. It's best that you stay in one or stay in the other. Okay, so moving on, we have our documents section here. In this section, you will have any documents that are pending signature. At the top here, we have little widgets that you can select to filter your results below. If there's a 0 in the widget, that means there's nothing to populate for that section. If there is a number in the widget, there is something to populate. And then from here, you can click the arrow to manage whatever you need to manage for this applicant or resident or what have you. Okay. Moving on to the application section. This is a brief overview of the applications in the system. This area also includes applications that prospects have gone in and started creating, but maybe haven't paid for yet, where you can go through on the website here and select a unit. So this is not the real website, this is a test website, but this is a brief overview of how our prospects will see the units to select. So sometimes they can come in here, select a unit and start filling out the application. And if they don't pay for the application fee, then they will stay in this queue here, and it's up to us to manage that and kind of clean this up and make sure it's up to date. Okay. Next, we have our renewal section. Again, it's another dashboard that's offered by Yardi. This tells you all of the residents based on different workflow processes of where they are in the workflow of what needs to happen. So we have here generate proposal. That this is letting us know that we have 35 people that we need to generate a proposal for because their lease is coming up for expiration. And then once the proposal goes in, this is renewal workflow that I'm going over really quickly. Once we input the proposal, we have to then approve the proposal. Currently, this property has 0, so that's great. And then under the pending selection, these are the residents who are up for renewal, who have a proposal in their file, an approved proposal in their file, and these residents would need to go online to the resident portal and select the proposal. Some sites will have 1 proposal, some sites may have 2 or 3. but the resident does need to go online and select which one they would like. After the resident selects the proposal, then we can go in and send them the lease. And then scheduled is when the file is actually renewed, and that is by clicking on the renewed button within the renewal workflow. And that is something that we will go over in a separate meeting. Renewal workflow, that is. Next is your follow-up section. So our follow-ups are determined by the setup in CRM. Right now for Ivy, this is our follow-up setup. A follow-up is basically a way to contact either a prospect or resident or someone who's renewing their lease. There are preset follow-ups set up by CRM based on industry standard, right? So for Ivy, they have 3 follow-ups set up for a first contact follow-up. So somebody calls the office or puts in a query online for an apartment. Our job as the leasing staff is to follow up with those people to see if they're interested to turn them into heads and beds. There's 3 auto-generated follow-ups that will populate as soon as a prospect comes into the pipeline. If those follow-ups are not resolved, they will be red. Okay. Alternatively, or also, I should say, we also have showing follow-ups. These follow-ups are in the system to ensure that we're all doing what we need to do to turn heads and beds. They can be edited if we need to do that. It's just something that IT would need to know. We can go over that with you guys if you would like on another call. We also have follow-ups for submit application. There's 1 auto-generated. Approve application, there's 2, and so forth. All right, so let me show you, for example, a follow-up, which is here. So I'm in a prospect's guest card, Bernadette Rousseau. And along her lead journey, it looks like she called the site and then called again and got the call center. I believe we can, okay, so we can listen to the calls here by pushing the play buttons, and it will pull up the call for us to listen to and take notes if we need to. So as soon as this lead was created by the Yardi call center, the system automatically generated 3 follow-ups because it's based on the settings that we have set up for Ivy. If a follow-up is completed, or once a follow-up is completed, we need to go in, make our notes, whatever they may be, and click complete or save and complete. If any information is missing that is needed, it will let you know. So you would go ahead and pick or fill in the information that's needed, save your follow-up. It's going to ask me if I want to assign the guest card since it hasn't been assigned yet. You can either say yes or no. I'm gonna, oh, this is the assignment to the agent. Let's see. I'm gonna save here. And then that will resolve my 1 of 3 follow-ups that are due for Bernadette Rousseau. The rest of the follow-ups are here in the activities area here. Okay, so each prospect, sometimes some of your residents will have follow-ups. And again, that is based on the setup. And I can send that over to each of the properties, the setup to each of the properties after the meeting, so we can take a look at them. Okay, so that was your follow-up section. It was just a brief overview. I'll show you how to get a more expanded view here shortly when we hop over to the queue. All right, so next we have a section for appointments, which is really, really useful. I can quickly come to my appointments dashboard to see if there are any appointments scheduled. I can easily click on the prospect's name to get into their prospect guest card, as well as clicking the arrow. You do have filters up here that you can use to filter the information below. Okay. And then here I have an activity log. This is just basically logging my activity for the day in the system, in the software. And again, we can filter on different agents, dates, and so forth. All right, so those are my items under my dashboard section. All right. So next, under traffic, I'm going to hit on the pipeline. So the pipeline is your prospect pipeline. This is a listing of all of your prospects. Really and truly, when I was in leasing, I really didn't use this section. I more so used the CRM Queue section because it breaks down your leads, which I'll go over shortly, into the unassigned leads, your leads, and then as well as the community queue. But you do have access to look at an expanded view of all the prospects in the pipeline. Again, everything I'm going over mimics Yardi. So we have our prospect pipeline here, and the appointments would show on the calendar as we've gone over. Your activity logs will show in the guest card under the contacts button. Okay. All right, next is waitlist. So anyone that's been placed into a wait unit would be listed in this waitlist section here. Again, you can click into the guest card by clicking on the name or by using the search to type in their name and getting to the guest card that way. Applications, these are all of your applications in the system that are pending. It lets you know the guest name, the status of the application, the agent, the app date, the unit, the screening result, and the screening date. So you know if the screening date and result are missing, it needs to be screened. All right. And then right under here, I love this function. So this is in the scenario where you have like a husband and a wife or two roommates and they both go online because they're not communicating like we often do, and fill out an application for two different units. You can group the applications together. So you would fill out one of these pieces of information, the most unique piece, most likely an email address, and click search, and it would pull up the person's name. Let me see if I can pull someone up. Okay, let me put this lady's name in. Hold on. All right. So it will pull up your guest name. You would click select, and then you would click the add occupants or applicants button to then search for the other person that's supposed to be involved in this transaction, if you will. And you would click search and then select the name, and then there's an option to group the applications together. Very, very useful tool. Okay, so next, I am going to skip the rest of this for now and hop over to the CRM Queue. Okay, so in our CRM Queue, these are our guest cards, if you will, they're virtual guest cards. Anytime a prospect calls the office through any of our internet listing services, that's apartments.com, Google, you can see on here, you know, they go to Google or they go to the Google search and type in Ivy Rockville and they call that little Google ad for Ivy Rockville. We track all of that. Not only do we track it, we also record the calls. Orange is indicating that it's a prospect or indicating that that phone number is not yet in the system. So if you have a resident that's calling from maybe their friend's cell phone, they may come up in orange. If you have a resident that's calling or a prospect that's calling that's already in the system, it'll most likely show up in blue. To listen to the calls, you can click on this play button here, and click play. And then it will play the recording or what have you, or whatever it was able to capture. You can download the recordings if you need to and increase the playback speed. Okay. All right, so I'm in test. So your unreviewed queue are leads that, again, the ones in orange, they're not in the queue, they don't have a guest card. Or like I said before, maybe they contacted you a new way that's not associated to any of the guest cards or resident cards in the system. And then we also get replies coming into the queue. So that's why we see some of these guests are assigned to some of our site staff here. So I'm going to pick one. Let's see. So I'm going to pick this one. Again, we're in the unreviewed queue. The unreviewed queue should be checked every day. I would say 3 times a day. It should be 0. So once in the morning, we 0 it out. In the afternoon, maybe after lunch or right before lunch, you come back in, you check, you 0 it out. And then again, before you leave for the day, you come and you check and you 0 it out. Right now, the queue is only filtering for, is that 2 weeks? 1 week. So it only filters on a 1-week view. If you want to expand your filter, maybe we were out for a few days, office was closed, or we just didn't get around to coming to the queue because there's only a few staff in the office, we can push the date back to see if there were any leads that were missed. All right, because we don't want to miss any leads. Because yeah, that's what we're here to do, heads and beds. All right, so I am going to manage this lead here by clicking the arrow. All right, and then it also gives us another option to listen to the call if we need to. Once you click the arrow, it will, CRM will search for other leads in the system by the phone number and by the name, or by the email address. If it doesn't find anything, it will say no results. If it does find something, your result would be below. You would make sure that you're not creating a duplicate guest card because they're annoying, right? Make sure you're not creating a duplicate guest card. So maybe you have another prospect in with the same first and last name, but it's a totally different person, different number, then you can create guest card. If it's the same guest, you will want to come down here and select the actual guest that it is and manage the guest card that way. And it will merge the call on the left into the guest card, as well as update any additional information that the guest called in or emailed in with. So as you can see, this guest is not yet in the system. So I am going to create guest. And when I create guest, it's going to ask me to fill in some preferred information. I'm just going to put in some dummy information because we're in test. Okay. And based on the call, or maybe I have the call and a paper card, guest card in front of me, or maybe the guest is right in front of me and I'm filling this out on a tablet. We would go ahead and select the information here. Let's say, I don't know, Jamila is out for the day and Belinda is taking over the queue, but she knows that Jamila is the one that usually does the queue management. So you can put a guest card in a different agent's name. All right. And then here is the preferred bedroom size. I'm just going to select 3. You can fill out as much as you want as long as the field is not asterisked. If you wanted to add more information, you can click show more here. And it would expand to more information that you can enter for the guest. Okay, so I'm going to click save. If we needed to remove the item from the queue, we could have clicked remove, and I'll show you that on another guest card because there's options you have to select. Okay, so now I have taken a prospect guest card from the unreviewed queue, and I've created a guest card. So now that I've created a guest card, I have follow-ups that need to be resolved for the guest. Oh, it looks like they're all complete. So Jamila went in and did all of her follow-ups here. Nothing in red, which is great. If she needed to or wanted to, she could come in here and put in extra notes that she may need for the future. And then right now it's filtered on all for the activity logs. You can filter based on the phone calls, text messages, or I don't know what the icon is. Is that text? Yeah, text, email, and chat. All right. The guest card information that we filled out earlier is in the profile section here down below. And then in your action center at the top here, it's always going to be telling you what the next thing you need to do is. Okay. And then straight from here, we can invite the resident to register for Rent Cafe if we needed to, if you wanted to kind of nudge them to fill out an application. We could also email them by clicking on their email address here. The email section of CRM was always my favorite part. You can add templates into the email section, and it just makes your emailing and following up so much easier. You can pick one, let's see, appointment reminder, and then you would insert the template. Oh, we're in test. Okay, so you would insert the template. If you selected a subject line for your template, it would automatically populate here. If you wanted to edit the subject, you can, so it's not, doesn't look so canned, or maybe the guest is a repeat guest and you want to switch it up a little bit. Typically, because we're in test, it's not going to show, but typically you would have your greeting here. And we can also use tokens in this section as well to token, well, they're set up at the setup area. So there would be a token here that would have the guest first name based on the guest card. And it would read kind of like an email or a letter with your greeting and then your body of your email and then a salutation at the bottom. You could always change up the verbiage in the email if you needed to, switch things around. You have the opportunity to attach anything that you needed to. And then you can also link a follow-up as well. So when we use this link follow-up here, it resolves any of the lingering follow-ups on the guest card that we may need to do later, and it connects them both together. So in your activity section, under your follow-ups, you'll have that email that you sent out, and it would be linked to the actual follow-up. And if you don't do it here, there's an opportunity to do it in the activity section as well. Okay. If there were additional occupants on this guest card, maybe two people came in together and we added them both onto the guest card, you can click the to box, and if there's another applicant or another occupant, it would show the email address below for you to select from, and you can add it. You can add it to the CC section, or you can add another email address to the CC section if you would like. Okay. And then we have some editing parameters down here if you ever need to make sure that your font and everything looks good to send. You do have the option to save your email, as well as preview before you send it. Okay. So let me go back to the CRM queue. All right, so in the CRM queue, I'm going to pretend that this was an accidental like butt dial or something, and there's nothing really there. After I listen to it, because I'm cleaning the queue. So right now we're at 13. So I'm going to trash this call. You do have one more opportunity to listen to it before you trash it. Okay. And then you would select the reason, your removal reason. And I'll just select hang up for this demonstration and click save. Then our number should drop to 13. or 12, excuse me, yep. So it's dropped to 12. So I'm well on my way to quote unquote managing my queue. Let's see. So next you have your community queue. Your community queue again is sorted based on a week's date range automatically by default. You can push that out to see if there's anything in here that you need to follow up on. Your community queue is a listing of all of the prospects in the system that are assigned to all of the site staff. Right, so you'll see your own guest cards in here, as well as some that are not assigned to site staff, as well as assigned to other site staff as well. You can always come in here and resolve these follow-ups. These are due a few days ago, so they're in yellow to let you know that they're due. And as you continue to go down the list and resolve your follow-ups, your number will start to decrease. Any appointments, you'll just need to manage and go through and put in your appointment notes. All right. And then this follow-ups is just your follow-ups minus the appointments. That's why it says 28 and this one says 29. We have no alerts. And then we have prospects without active follow-ups. This section is always a sore thumb for leasing, because if you don't stay on top of your queue here, this section gets out of control. For example, don't kill me, just the messenger. If I go back to February 1st, oh, not too bad. Okay, so it still stayed at 88, but we can see here that we have 270 follow-ups that haven't been quote unquote managed. Okay, and then again, those follow-ups are going off of the setup we have in CRM for IV. Okay, so 3 follow-ups automatically attached to each guest card for the first contact follow-up, first showing. 3 automatically go on there. When they submit an application, we have 1, probably says, thank you for submitting your application. We look forward to you moving here. We have 2 approval follow-ups that need to be done, and so forth. Okay, so that's what all of these are. Right. You do have the capability to ad hoc add a guest card from this plus icon here. And then this opens up an electronic version of a guest card. If you wanted to show less, you can click show less. And again, as you start to type in the information for the guest, the system will start to look for matches, because we don't want duplicates in here. It just gets too hard to manage, especially with the follow-ups rules and so forth. So you want to make sure that you're not creating duplicate guest cards. And when you do see duplicates, you merge them. All right. We also have a little quick service request icon here that you can quickly add in a service request if you need to, and a prorate calculator on the fly if you need to, rattle off any numbers to your prospect in closing the deal. All right, so I'm going to hop back to the CRM Queue. Make sure I'm on track here. Okay. So next we have application processing. Before I go there, do I have any questions about the dashboard area or the CRM Queue? Okay. Okay, so next we have application processing. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And I'm going to pull up the applications here. So when your guests go to your website, and they select the unit they want to apply for, they will begin filling out their application. Right, so they will come here and they'll select their move-in date based on the settings we have set up in for the property. Determines what date they can select and how far out they can go. And then they would start their application by creating an applicant portal account and filling this information out here. Oops, This is just telling me that I already have an application with you guys. Once they fill out the application pops over to us. We get emails letting us know that there is an applicant. They've paid their application fee. The applicant also gets emails letting them know that their application was sent to the property and is being processed. So the next step in processing the application is to process the screening, which can all be done from here, from the CRM. So when you pop into the prospect's guest card, you can see at the top here that they have applied. And then you can come to the screening area. If this prospect hadn't been screened yet, this action center item would say screen, I believe. But since this person has already been screened, we need to evaluate their application. I'm going to back up one step for this demonstration. So when you click on your Action Center Screen Applicant, you are going to be brought to the screening application for the prospect. Again, this mimics pretty much the same way in Voyager. It's just laid out vertically instead of horizontally on the screening application. When you first open the application, this information here will be blank, right? Because we wouldn't have ran the screening yet. So before you run screening, what you're going to do is make sure you have all of your information filled out on the application properly. Make sure you don't need to get any additional information from your prospects. Sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. You can come to the attachment section here and pull up the application that was filled out and make sure everything was done correctly and that you don't have any questions. Sometimes we look at these applications and they may put in like dummy information in order for them to move on to the next section. We just want to make sure that the information checks out so that when we do run screening, we don't get any bounce backs or what have you. So you just want to make sure that the information makes sense. Make sure that sometimes maybe the employer is like a real employer. Maybe you'll pop in the address or the employer name to Google or something like that just to check. And then you'll come down here and check any of this information, make sure it matches with the site's criteria, and make sure you have your signatures. Okay. You'll also want to check to make sure that you have a photo ID, whether it's uploaded here or you have a copy of it in a paper file, and then your proof of income as well. All right, so we have all of that information. I also like to check to see if there's any additional occupants, and there is one here. It's a spouse. You can come into the edit button here and take a look at the occupant information, as well as the occupant's attachment section, which has a copy of it's supposed to have a copy of the application. So this one, I would go back and double check to make sure I had a copy of the applicant's application since it's not here. I would do a little research. I'm not sure because I'm not on site. Sometimes on site, you can have the secondary person fill out a paper app or what have you, or they fill it out a separate app on a different apartment. Anything could have happened. So we're going to pretend for this demonstration that there's an application here. Sometimes it's stored in the same file as the primary. You just have to keep scrolling. But we do have proof of income and a copy of their ID, which is perfect. So now that I've verified that information, I can come back into my screening. Again, your screening would be up here, but I'm going to click here. And then I'm on my screening application for Andrea at the moment. So I'm going to expand each section and make sure that they're filled out in its entirety and enter any additional information that could help the application. I typically always like to put in the driver's license number and state. I just felt like it helped the background come back a little bit quicker. In order to run the screening, both of these questions have to be yes. All right, and they have to be true. So photo ID verified, signed consent. So making sure you have a copy of their photo ID as well as a copy of the signed application. And then active include request. This is letting the software know that you want to run screening for Andrea because we're on Andrea's screening application. All right. So here we have her social in here. If she didn't have a social, this section here will be ticked off. Her date of birth, her name is here. Apparently she doesn't have her middle name is in here. If she didn't have a middle name, this would be ticked off and that would no longer be required. And then you always just want to make sure that the name matches the ID that you have as well before you run the screening. All right. And then down here on the address section, all of the information is pulling in from the application that they filled out online. You always have to fix this area here, whether it's in the current or former section. For some reason, they want the address unparsed and parsed. So I usually just either cut it and paste it below or just delete and type it just to make sure it's correct. As you're working through the areas in CRM you want to save because it can time out on you, especially if you take a phone call or have to go on a tour or something like that. So as you fix each section, you can expand and collapse, and you just want to make sure that the information is correct. Down here we have employment information. So this looks like she's self-employed because it says unknown, other. All right. And you just want to make sure everything's filled out according to your site's specifications. And then the reevaluation section is not applicable in this scenario. All right, so I'm done looking at this one. Now I need to make sure that the spouse's application, screening application is reviewed as well. And I need to verify it against the driver's license. So I would click applicants here. If you look really closely, you can see a little 2. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little 2 and a little people, picture of the people. Or if there were 3 applicants, there would be 3. Right? So I'm going to click here and select Elvin. And then it's going to show me the screening application for Elvin. And I'm going to go through and make sure these 2 are yes, because this is the initial application. He doesn't have a middle name, so this is ticked off, so that looks good. I'm going to go down to the address info. This looks good. And make sure I'm verifying against the driver's license and the application information, as well as the pay stubs that were provided. Sometimes people don't know how to calculate their salary properly, so you just want to make sure that that's correct as well. When I'm done, I click save. If you're looking through this screening application and you realize there's like all this information missing and you don't have it because you don't know it, you can let the prospect know, like, hey, Elvin, you're missing like a few pieces of information on your application that I need you to go back in to the portal, log in and fill out those pieces of information. If he does that, it's not going to come back into the application. You can, however, though, click this update button and it will pull whatever was entered in the application after the fact into both CRM in the profile area as well as the screening application information area. All right. Again, that was the update. There is a parse addresses icon here. It works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. And the parse was relating to this area here where it wants you to parse out the address. All right. I've found it easier in the past just to do it myself and then click save. So I'm done. So what I'm going to do next is select my screening here, which was already done, and then click select, and then the system is going to run screening for both Elvin and Andrea. A quick note, if I were doing an add-on to an existing resident, somebody gets married and they want to add their husband to the apartment, you would come to the occupants section. Come on. Add the occupant. Add new person. If they're in the queue, you can select from the queue. You would put in their name and their email and their phone number and the relationship and make sure that Lease is checked off. You would click save, and then you would have the option to invite the prospect to Rent Cafe. When the prospect is invited to Rent Cafe, they can fill out an application and it will come back to the office via email. And then we can run screening just for, let's say for this example, it's just Elvin and we're adding Elvin. So we can see that Elvin went in and filled out all of his application information. So we can come back to the screening area within the resident card. We're pretending that this is a resident now and Andrea is adding her spouse. Before you run screening for Andrea's profile or screening application, you will want to come down to personal information and set this as no. And what this will do is it will skip Andrea's screening application for screening, because maybe she's only been living at the property for 6 months and we don't want to screen her again. Okay, we just want to screen Elvin. So I would select this as no, click save, and then go to Elvin and then process his application as normal. Okay, and that was for add-ons. Same thing in Voyager, just horizontal. Yes, I had to think about that for a second. Okay. All right, so coming back from around the bush. So we're back to Andrea and Elvin being a prospect. We've run their screening. It has come back as accepted. So now I'm going to pretend I'm the CM or the ACM and I'm going to approve or deny the application. I also have the opportunity as well to cancel the application if I needed to. Let's see where it's canceled. It's usually up here somewhere, but I don't remember where it is at this second. But you have 3 options. You can cancel the application after the prospect lets you know that they're no longer interested in writing. Or you can approve them or deny them. So I'm going to approve them. And I'm just going to use whatever the system tells me. It's going to make sure you really want to approve the prospect. Again, we're in test. And then my prospect is approved. And then here you can see we have 2 more follow-ups that are due, which falls right in line with what I showed you earlier about the setup. I know I keep harping on this, but I just want you guys to understand. So after approve application, there's 2 follow-ups. Okay, so here are our 2 follow-ups. All right, so next in the upper right-hand corner, you have your action center telling you what needs to happen next. All right, so if you're ever having an off day and you don't remember where you left off the day before or the week before, don't worry, you have the action center right here. And you have the dashboard area that we went over earlier that shows you your little widgets on what needs to happen next for each of your prospects and applicants. All right, so I'm going to click on here, Manage Lease. And I am going to ensure that my move-in dates, lease from dates, the number of terms that the prospect selected and everything is correct. So typically I would do this after I let them know that they're approved. I would pull this up and make sure like, hey, are you still looking to move in on this date? You still interested in 12 months and so forth, and let them know a reminder of the rent and then send them some sort of welcome letter or what have you, also with this information in it too. All right, so we verified that information. So I'm going to click Save. Next. All right, so next is your lease information. So if your property has any rentable items, they would be listed here. IV does not have any rentable items, so there's none listed. Down here is your charges section. So this is mimics the move-in calculator that we have in Voyager. This is where you can either toggle unless they're locked, you can either toggle or untoggle things or charges that need to be applied to this residence file. All right. So like, for instance, parking, we can toggle that if they are bringing in the vehicle because that was in their application. And if they had any pets, we can toggle the deposit, the fee. All right. If the move-in amount is open to editing, you can edit the amount. All right. If it's locked, it will have a lock symbol here, and this will be grayed out. All right. Any concessions would also show up here. If it doesn't show here, stop. Don't do the lease yet. Stop, get the concession added, and then come back and do the lease, because you want the concession addendum to populate with the lease, and you don't want to have to regenerate it and all that jazz. Okay, so I'm comfortable with my charges here. I'm going to click Save and click Next. If you do make a mistake, you can always reset it back to, if you will, factory, and it will set it back to before you made any changes. All right, so both Ivy and Locust use Blue Moon for their leases. So here in the Manage Lease section, this kind of mimics what Blue Moon has when you're doing your lease. It pulls in most of the information except for Ivy, it's not pulling in the security deposit amount. So it will prompt you to enter that amount in, but you just want to go through this and make sure that all of the information is accurate. All right. And you will have to enter your deposit received. I'm just going to put in something just to continue. Then there's a save button down below and a save button up high. And it is a little slow, but it gets the job done. Oh, so excuse me. So the save button below will keep you in the lease, and the save button up high will take you to the next section. Sorry about that. So I always like to look through the other documents just to make sure if you needed to edit the number of keys, you could do that. There is some information that can be edited or that needs to be edited, and there's some that cannot. If anything is wrong with that, you let IT support know. All right. And just go through the rest of the addenda that's required for your lease packet and just make sure it's all right. And then I'm going to do my big save. And it's going to bring me to the next section. All right. So if we had, I'm sorry, I skipped over that. So the manage forms section, if we had any forms that were pending, we don't have any set up for either sites, so there wouldn't be really anything here. Not yet, at least. But there is a print form section we have set for Ivy. They can print off the inventory and condition form or download it here. That's your move-in checklists, move-in, move-in, move-out checklist that they can fill out for the apartment. All right, and then click Next. So next is where you preview and finalize the lease. So again, you just want to look over it. Once you do enough of these, you know the exact places and pages to look. Right? So you just want to look through and make sure all of the merged or information that's pulled in is correct. Right? And once you do that, you would finalize your lease. So let's see if this is going to make me, it's going to work with me today. And no, it's not, because I'm in test. So typically you would get a blue that says lease finalized, When the lease is finalized, it sends an email to the prospects or prospect letting them know that there's a lease awaiting for them to sign, right? And they need to log into the portal. And there's hyperlinks in the email so that they can click and go straight to the portal. Alternatively, you can send for signature request. Okay? And it would look something like this. It would be right next to the regenerate section, or maybe even below. You can click send for signature request. What that does is it also sends a prospect. It even works on residents too. You can send for signature requests when they have their renewals. It sends them a link so that they don't have to log into the portal. Like if you have someone who is technologically not advanced, whatever the term is, you can send them the link and it will email them an email that says, hey, click on this link so that, oh, I don't need to say that, it's right here. It sends them an email saying you have a document that's up for signature for City View Towers. Click this link and we'll send you a unique access code. So they click the link, the code gets sent to them. They'll have to verify themselves via email or via cell phone. The link is valid for 12 hours after they click it, and they have to put the PIN in. And once they put the PIN in and it's validated, they can sign the lease doc. All right. So if anybody needs this SOP, let me know. But yeah, really simple. We do have the option to regenerate the lease if we needed to. It will even tell you in the Action Center if you make any changes within the lease, like let's say you add an occupant. It'll let you know up here in the Action Center that you need to regenerate your lease. Okay. So once the lease is signed, let me go back. So once the lease is signed, your Action Center again will let you know what needs to happen, and then you would come in here and do your move-in. Sorry, you would execute the lease, so we can execute here, even though they haven't signed, but we're in test. All right, so once we countersign it on our end, we can execute the lease, and then the applicant then becomes a future status. Okay. And then they're ready to be moved into the software, into the system. Okay, I have a few more things to go over, like literally a few more. I think I should just keep going. I don't think it's going to take that long. Okay, so really quickly, I just wanted to go over residents. Just click anybody. Again, CRM is a direct mimic of Voyager. So instead of everything being at the top with the three little drop downs, they're on the side here and on the side over here on your right. All right. So we can come into a resident profile and add a service request from here. We can also do it on the left here, and we can do it on the home screen from the dashboard. We have a documents section here. This is really useful. Let's say Luis gets a dog and we want to add a dog and we want to send them a pet addendum. We can click on that one off and send them just the pet addendum for them to sign. So you would come through here, find the doc you want, or they add a car and they need to fill out the car parking addendum. So you would come here, find the form you need, click save, click next, and email it to them. If we needed to invite them to Rent Cafe, there's always an icon here to do so. We can look at any of their online documents here, manage their lease if they're up for renewal, since this is a residence profile we're looking at, so we can always manage their lease if they're up for renewal. Tracking, I don't remember what tracking is. This is document tracking. I don't think we really use. This is more for like when they're applying, you can track what documents they send. So you can see here what was uploaded and so forth. I probably wouldn't use here. I would go back to the profile and go to attachments so that I can actually look at what the documents are. But it's nice to have like a little outline of what was submitted. You have a move-in inspection section here, and then you can print forms and basic forms over here, which are from Blue Moon. We have activity here. We can pop into their ledger if we needed to. We can look at their unpaid charges ledger, pending payments, if it's the first of the month and they've made a payment, but it hasn't gone through yet. We can check here and it will show up as pending. It may not show on the ledger yet, but it will show up in the pending payment section. We could do a charge from here and then also pop into the collections interface from here as well. Okay. And then actions, we can transfer them, reverse move-in if we ever needed to. That would be an IT ticket. We can renew the lease from this action center. We can assign them a unit, which I don't know why you would want to or really need to unless there was an extenuating circumstance. We can adjust our lease end date here, just like we can in Voyager. Notice, evict, month to month. We can go back to screening, and then we can also do roommate promotions as well from here. On your left, we have, again, our profile area. It has all of our residence information as a snapshot at the top here, which is really nice. And then the primary residence information right below. If someone has unsubscribed from emails, you can resubscribe them from here. All right, so if it's ticked off, that means they've unsubscribed from our emails. You can tick it back off if they say they want to I didn't get the email about the garage washing. You can come back in here and say, will you unsubscribe? And I can resubscribe you. Let me know if you want to, and you can come in here and do that. And then we have a section for vehicles, and then just other sections that are not applicable to your sites. Okay. Over here on the activities tab, again, this is all the activities for your resident. It also puts in memos in here as well, any rent charges, lease, any activity that the resident has. If they call and it's recorded, the recordings will be here, which is really nice. Okay. You can filter. You can add an activity to here if you needed to. Here on the left, we have the lease info. All right, and then your lease charges here with your from and to dates. Any deposit information is listed here. And then your other info, like in Voyager. Other info section. All right. And then your attachments and renewal notices. Any occupants, both leasees and minors, will be listed here. All right. If they're a minor, you want to make sure that the leasee option is not ticked off, like for this. So this is perfect. All right. And let's see, signature documents. This section I don't think we use, but this section gives you the capability to upload a document that needs to be signed and send it to them. I will be curious if anybody is using this, let me know. Here we have rentable items. Again, if your site doesn't have any rentable items, then we won't need to come to this area. And then I can also enter a service request from the left menu here. What's nice about this is it also shows me a history of all of the service requests for this unit, for this resident. Okay, and I can click and open the service request and look at it and see what was wrong, when it was submitted. I can print it if I need to, which is nice. So here's my printed work order, just like when we print it from Voyager. And then pretty much from here down, we really don't use, maybe except for renter's insurance. So this is where you would put in your renter's insurance policies. If it's a roommate situation or a situation where each occupant has their own insurance plan, you can select the name and put the different plans in. All right. You always want to put, I know it's not asterisk, but you always want to put a policy end date, because then there's reporting in Voyager that you can pull that will let you know when the policies at your property are ending. So it's easier to manage if renter's insurance is required for your property. Right. And that is it for the resident review. Let me show one thing in Site Manager. So earlier I touched on email subscription. Oh, great. Earlier I touched on email subscription. There's a way you can look to see who has unsubscribed from emails. Just give me 1 second here. To restart my Site Manager. It's being mean to me today. Okay. All right. So Rank Cafe Site Manager, under reports, email and text message, email and text message subscription report, I can see either email or text. I pick my property. I've been picking on Ivy, might as well stick to it. I can sort via prospect or resident. I'm going to say current status. I'm going to say, I can look at all registered, unregistered. I'm going to say all, and I'm going to say opt out, yes, and display on the screen. All right, so this shows us, oh wait, I want to say no. Okay, so this shows us all of the residents who have opted out of our emails, and we can, I don't like doing this next. I just want to see a lot on one page sometimes. So you can change the number of records on the page. You can also do a quick little search if you have someone on the phone that's calling and you don't have time to look through. You can also sort each column header, which is nice, but it does take some time. So it's easier if you know their name, you can type it here. But this shows you everyone who has opted out. It tells you when and everything. It's like Big Brother. Okay. Same thing with text as well. So that's really handy to have. One other report I just want to go over is your payment activity report. Any of your residents who are paying online, you can come here and look at the payment activity report. It will show you, I will show you what it will show you. I'm going to select all, and I always check cancellations, and I'm going to select all. And typically when we're looking at rent collection, I really don't want to see application fees right now because I want to see rent collection. All right. So again, you can sort on these column headers if you need to. What's nice is you can also export this to a number of different Microsoft products. Excel is my favorite, right? You also have, stop it. You also have a search box here that you can use to search for like an email address or a name. And this is telling me that there are multiple pages to the report. This report's really nice. It shows who submitted a payment, what day they submitted a payment, all the way down to the time and the seconds. It tells you their apartment number. It has their T code, which y'all know is my favorite. It has the amount they paid and whether it was successful or failed. What I love about this report is when it fails, it tells you a brief description of why it may have failed. So this gentleman here tried to pay with a credit card, but he needs to check the expiry date. Maybe it's off a number or something like that. All right. So this is nice to look at if anybody has any issues with their payments. I always sort it on, because I can see the failed ones first. Right. It also tells you if they made a one-time payment or if it's reoccurring. Oh, and it is still included app fees, even though it's voted not to. But yeah, this is a really useful report. Like I said, I usually export it to Excel because I don't like going, y'all know I don't like going through pages. Because this is like, I did a long range and that's when rent is between the time that rent is due. So there's a lot of records. Oh, only 4 pages. All right. So I am done for the most part. The one thing I wanted to quickly touch on are renewals. We will follow up with you all to go over renewals. We are currently working on adding in Ivy's renewal letters. There's 2, one that stipulates that the resident gets a concession and one without a concession. So we are like almost at the finish line of getting those letters into the residential correspondence area of Yardi Voyager. And then alternatively, we're also working on seeing if we're able to use the bulk proposal and bulk approval functions within Yardi so that when you get your spreadsheets with approved renewals, you can put your renewals in bulk. So if you have like, I know you get approvals with different percentages. So if you have like 5 people with a 1.5%, you can filter your spreadsheet to filter by percentage and enter in your 5 people at the 1.5% increase. So we are working on that and we'll have to schedule a follow-up meeting to go over that. Locust, if you have a renewal letter that you want added, you can let us know and I can show you really quickly and then I promise I'm done. Just a brief overview of residential correspondence, so at least you know what it looks like. So I have my property in here. I should have a residence. Let's see. No, I don't want this person. Castillo. Is that her name? Yes. Alejandra. Okay. So I'm going to display, right? And then I'm going to select renewal letter. Might not work. Okay, yes, it's nice to me today. Okay, so this is where we've left off thus far, but basically, let me back up a step. So you would put in your information. I just used one tenant for this scenario, but typically what you would do is you would fill out your lease to and lease from dates. So for your June renewals, you would put in June 1 to June 30. So it captures everyone expiring in June. You could display, look at your list, make sure all your proposals are in and approved. And then you would come over here, select your renewal letter category, and select either no concession or with concession. You want to make sure you select merge documents into single PDF. And then you can generate your documents and it will automatically pop up on the screen. If there's like 10, it would be 10 sequential PDFs that you can print. Or you can go down the line and select each letter ad hoc if you wanted to, or if you close out of the screen. But so the letter pulls in with the information. So we selected to have 320, I think I put 321, yeah, the document date here. Right, and then it pulls in the resident's name and the roommates, all adult roommates. It has their address here, their lease expiration. Soon it will have the new lease to and lease from dates. And then you have all of your financial information down here, what the monthly rent is, what it's going to be, how much the increase is, and the percentage amount. And then down here, it will have the community's manager's information down here, or whatever information you would like it to have. So that is something that we're working on, and we will have more information on that later. Does anybody have any questions?